the Madman! One of the top custom Hearthstone cards of the week. Let's start off with the iconic Illidan. But this is an alternate universe Illidan, if he accepted the Gift of the Light from the Naru. It's Illidan Amber-Eyed Kaldorei, 6 mana 3/6, spell damage +2. Battlecry, discover a spell that costs 5 or more, gain armor equal to its cost. Design 2 stars, balance 4 stars. My major problem with the card is that legendaries should be really easy to remember what they do. Like, they're kind of iconic, and Illidan has just too much going for him. It's like, okay, spell damage +2, cool. Discover a spell that costs 5 or more, okay, that kind of synergizes with each other, although not really, because a lot of the druid spells that cost 5 or more don't actually do damage. Weird, but alright. Gain armor equal to its cost. Well, I mean, that's kind of cool to discover a spell that costs 5 or more. But it's 3 effects. They don't really synergize with each other. And because there's too much to remember, and I mean this isn't a there are too many deck slots, I'm confused moment. It's an actual, I can't possibly remember this card moment. I don't dock any points for, Illidan being a druid, but what I do dock a serious amount of points for are the combination of these things together. Even though I love complex cards, that is too confusing. Balance-wise, I think the card is a little too strong because that is a lot of armor you get, especially when you discover a spell that always costs 5 or more. Could see 7 mana maybe if you wanted to push druid. But of course, I think this card just needs an overhaul. Sabatooze! 1 mana 2/1 neutral, battlecry. Your opponent's next hero power equips a 0/1 weapon. That's really cool. Design 5 stars, balance 5 stars. So 1 mana 2/1 with an annoying effect. You are never the person who gets to dictate the effect, but you do Sabatooze their hero power until they use it, and then, it's basically a 2 mana waste for them. Isn't even weapon hate because it doesn't kill their weapon unless they voluntarily click the button. So really, the point of Sabatooze is to just annoyingly get rid of their hero power for a 2 mana tax. I really like this tech card. I'm not entirely sure if it would be strong enough to put into a tempo deck. That's probably where it fits in because you're paying 1 mana for 2/1. Not very impactful, so probably wouldn't make a control deck. You could even alter it to be more impactful, make it a 2 mana 3/2, which is a better stat line than a 1 mana 2/1. But I do really like the idea of this card. Almost made it to my personal top card of the week, trump card of the week. Pack Filler! 5 mana 5/5, battlecry, shuffle a sealed classic pack into your deck. Design 3 stars, balance 5 stars. It's basically Elise, except it gets you classic instead of ungrow. If this were to make it to Hearthstone, I know it's named this way because of the memes, you'd probably be some sort of merchant, but the way that Elise is giving you the pack is that she's searching through the ungrow jungles for wild things. I'm not entirely sure what a classic pack would symbolize in a game. Obviously, the name and the art would have to be redesigned, and other than that, uninspired, but doable. Curator, Arcane Guardian. 7 mana mage legendary, a 4/6. Battlecry, if you are holding a dragon, played an elemental last turn, and control a beast, deal 5 damage to all enemies. Design 5 stars, balance 2 stars. I really like remixes, and this is a very clever remix of original Curator, using the 7 mana 4/6 stat line. Original Curator had taunt, but I understand why this card doesn't have taunt. There's already too much text on it. Plays with new themes very well, and it also plays into mages' particular minions pretty well, being dragons, elementals, and yes, there are actually a decent amount of beasts in mage. Ravens, crows. So I think that the concept is really cool. The problem is the card's a bit too weak. Yes, it deals 5 damage to all enemies. It even hits the enemy hero. But it's tough for you to be playing this with dragons and elementals and beasts and have the damage to the face be impactful. So therefore, I'm okay with tuning this way up. Also, the author forgot to put mech on this card. Rookie mistake. You could ratchet the benefit up quite a bit, and I think deals 7 damage to all enemies is fitting. This puts it kind of on par with Starliner, which was a 7 mana 7/7, which dealt 7 damage to all enemies if a specific circumstance happened. I would say that specific circumstance is less likely in typical play than Curator Arcane Guardian. I think this will be a reasonable deck to try to build and put together as a reward of playing Curator, and the payoff should be as such, and I think 7 damage would be the cool spot for it. Terrain! Terrain is a mechanic concept, which is an untargetable minion that takes up a single space on the board. It's replaced when you play another terrain. Design, 3 stars? Balance, 1 star. I don't think it's that original. It's basically the idea of an enchantment in Magic, and this has already been done in Hearthstone already. It's a card that, for the most part, you or your opponent can't interact with, which provides a constant benefit. Hearthstone did originally try to do this with the heroes, the Death Knights. Those are basically also constant, powerful enchantments, in that your hero power is the enchantment. And we learned that it's dangerous to provide infinite value off of things that are very difficult to interact with. The balance is very ridiculous on a number of these cards. I'll just highlight 2 of the more offensive ones though. Moonlit Moor, the Shaman one, whenever you overload, give your minions that much attack, and it overloads 2. Like, by itself, this is already giving all of your minions +2 attack, but every single overload card doing that, that's insane. And this card might not even be balanced at 7 mana. Cubic Ruins. The mage, your minions' mana cost and health are equal to their attack. Well, boy, that's a doozy of one. Just one example of how that's super OP would be Malygos. Play this and then you have a 4 mana Malygos, and you can only think of the disgusting things you could do off of that, but also Caligos is also 4 mana, by the way. The idea is okay. The execution on these is quite poor. Santa Claus, 6 mana 5/5, Battle Cry, discover a legendary minion. Then discover one for your opponent. Design, 5 stars, balance, 3 stars. I like it a lot, and it could be reskinned into a character that's actually in World of Warcraft right now, Great Father Winter. So the card that you can compare this with is Big Ol' Whelp, which is a 5 mana 5/5, which nets you 1 card. Santa Claus will get you a card as well, but it also gives you your opponent a bad one. Discovering legendary minions is cool, but when it comes down to it, that's usually not better than drawing a card. So therefore, Great Father Winter here, Santa Claus, could easily cost 5 mana, and probably still be weaker since Big Ol' Whelp was not only a dragon, but also drew your card, and didn't give your opponent a card. So then what? Maybe you could make this a 4 mana 4/5, and just completely power creep Grifta. Maybe you could make it a 4 mana 4/4. Din Din! 1 mana Hunter spell, discover an animal companion. Design, 3 stars. Balance, 4 stars. If you were to print this card right now, it would be too overpowered. Basically, the comparison to make is a 4 mana Huffer too overpowered? Warrior has its Kor'kron Elite, but Warrior's hero power is gain 2 armor. Kor'kron Elite would actually be overpowered in Hunter. And furthermore, Face Hunter is currently a decent deck in Hearthstone, so I think Din Din would push it too over the top. At the same time though, it's not that overpowered. Right now, most of the direct damage spells in Hunter, there aren't very many. The Face Hunter is reaching for those. Most of them are just from the base. The only one that it even uses from an expansion is Rapid Fire, which is a pathetic damage card. So when you have 4 mana for direct damage, that's really scary. And we can actually see a little bit that Hunter has been a bit shoehorned into not having that many good direct damage spells, possibly because Kill Command is too powerful. You can kind of see how Toxic Reinforcements was basically kind of Din Din. Toxic Reinforcements is a card that gives you a lot of face damage reach, and it's because of it that Face Hunter has seen a resurgence. So Din Din might be the equivalent of Toxic Reinforcements, I suppose. Though I think Toxic Reinforcements does it in a much cooler way. Gulper, Hunger Unending. 6 mana 6/6 Warlock Demon. At the end of each turn, destroy a minion and gain its stats. If this is the only minion, destroy it instead. Design, 3 stars. Balance, 1 star. So to understand how powerful the card is, think of it in 2 different archetypes. First of all, Control Warlock. You play your Gulper on turn 6 against your opponent's board. Maybe they have, let's say, 2 3/3s. So Gulper eats one of their 3/3s. Then it's a 9/9. Well, your opponent is going to have to trade their 3/3 into Gulper because they really want Gulper to die. If they don't, then Gulper becomes a 12/12 at the end of their turn. Also, they could just play a bunch of minions, but they're going to feel obligated to kill Gulper because he's that powerful. But that's not the best they could do. Like, if your opponent had more than just 2 3/3s, they have to make the really hard choice of, do I trade everything into Gulper so that it dies, or do I let it ride? And that's just a bit too insane. You could also put Gulper into your Zoo deck, where again, if you're behind, you could play Gulper as a catch-up, but you could also just have Gulper while you have a board. And that's where Gulper actually loses quite a lot of design points. I'm not even sure if design 3 is right for it, because Gulper becomes too random. Sometimes Gulper will take your opponent's minions and eat them, and sometimes Gulper will take your own small minions and eat them. And it's such a high variance, like, oh, well, sometimes I lose a minion, sometimes you lose a minion. It's just too luck-based. It's too powerful as is, and it's possible that such a design of randomly killing any minion, it's too variable. I don't think such a card can ever be printed. Rooted Knight, 1 mana 1/3 Druid minion. After you summon a Treant, gain +1/+1. Design 2 stars, balance 1 star. Originally I had the design on 3 stars, but after thinking about it, it's like, how blind do you have to be in order to make a better Undertaker? Because that's what this is right now. It's a better, original Undertaker. Normally design doesn't get docked because the balance is that far off, but when you can't learn from a previous card of Undertaker, it's like, well, we gotta dock even more points on design for that, right? So basically this card, if you play it on turn 1, you win, because then you just play Treants, and it's even harder to remove than Undertaker because it's a 1/3 instead of a 1/2. Treant Druid isn't even that underpowered right now. It's a viable deck, and believe me, if you play Rooted Knight on turn 1, you just win. And of course you could play this and then you play the Forest Aid and you have a 1 mana 6/8. I want to emphasize that this card is actually so powerful that I believe it might be too strong as a 1 mana 1/1. One possible fix is after you summon a Treant, gain +1/+0, just +1 attack. Of course it would still be too strong as a 1 mana 1/3 stat line. And time for this week's trump card. It's Demonic Knowledge. 2 mana Warlock spell, draw 5 cards, discard the 3 lowest cost cards from among them. Design 5 stars, balance 5 stars. I feel like this card is very Warlock representative at heart, and looks really strong in that it's a 2 mana spell that filters your top 2 cards, so it's like guarantees you draw 2 decent cards. But that comes at a heavy price, and I feel like that's very in spirit for Warlock to sacrifice everything. At the end of the day, this only gives you +1 card advantage, and Life Tap also gives you +1 card advantage, so Demonic Knowledge would have to be used in a pretty specific deck. And also, you'd have to be careful not to print things that are too overpowered in terms of discard alongside Demonic Knowledge, but perhaps you could print it alongside some cards that were also discard friendly and push a discard Warlock type deck. It's a little scary to think of a few cards in Wild with this, namely if you had the Malkazar Zimb and you had the Silverware Golem. Like, imagine if this card just basically drew you 5 cards and summoned a 3/3. But I think 1, Wild can handle that, and 2, I mean, of course you would print this with the knowledge that Demonic Knowledge existed as you printed other cards. It's a really cool card. I think that it's actually arguably weak right now without any synergy with it, but very Warlock at heart.